I watched the video on my phone for the third time that morning, each frame making my stomach twist tighter. There I was, Marcus Chen, 42 years old, standing at the edge of the rooftop bar at the Westmont Hotel, martini in hand, pointing directly at Ashley, and laughing like she was the punchline to some joke the whole room was in on. Except nobody was laughing with me. They were filming, recording, sharing. The thing that got me wasn't even what I'd said. It was the look on her face. Pure devastation. And I'd put it there on purpose. 3 years earlier, I was living the kind of life that made other guys jealous. Not in a flashy way, in a real way. I'd built something from nothing, and it showed in the details. The renovated colonial in the Oakmont subdivision with the wraparound porch, the investment portfolio my accountant bragged about, the Audi in the garage that still smelled new. My career as a commercial real estate developer had finally crested into serious money around age 39, and by 41, I wasn't just comfortable, I was untouchable. Sarah, my wife of 14 years, had been the foundation of all of it. She was the one who'd believed in me when I was eating ramen and sleeping in a studio apartment, pitching ideas to investors who thought I was delusional. She'd worked as a pediatric nurse, pulling double shifts at County Hospital while I chased deals. We'd met in college. She was studying biology. I was a business major, trying to impress everyone. She wasn't impressed by me at all. That's probably why I married her. Our daughter Emma was 11, in 6th grade at Riverside Academy, the kind of kid who got A+ without trying and played violin badly but enthusiastically. Our son Tyler was 8, all energy and questions and the kind of love that makes you understand why people say having kids changes everything. They were good kids. They had good parents, or at least one good parent. That was Sarah. The house was always warm, not in a sentimental way, in a concrete way. Sarah cooked dinner most nights, real food, nothing from a box. She helped the kids with homework at the kitchen table while I sat in my home office taking calls with investors in Singapore and Dubai. On weekends, we'd drive out to the state park, hike the trails, let Tyler run ahead while Emma pointed out different types of trees she'd learned from some nature app. Sarah would hold my hand during those walks, and I'd think about how lucky I was. I actually thought that, lucky, like I'd won something. The money changed things gradually, the way slow-moving disasters always do. At first, it was small stuff. I started going to networking events without Sarah because she had to work nights. Then the events got fancier, and I needed better suits, and I needed to look like the kind of guy who belonged in those rooms. My college friend Derek started showing up at these things, always with some new business idea or investment opportunity, or, increasingly, some new woman who wasn't his wife. He'd divorced Karen 2 years earlier, and he wore it like a badge of honor. "You're still doing the suburbs?" Derek said to me once, at a rooftop party in the city. He was talking about my neighborhood, my house, my life. "Dude, you've got the capital now. You could actually live." I laughed it off then, but the seed was planted. Sarah started noticing I was gone more. She'd ask about my day, and I'd give her the surface version. The deal closed, the property appreciated, the market's looking good. She'd listen while folding laundry or loading the dishwasher, and I could see her trying to understand a world that had become foreign to her. We had money now, but she was still working night shifts because she loved it, or because she didn't know what else to do with herself, or because she was terrified of change. I never asked. Then came the Westmont project, a $15 million mixed-use development in the Arts District downtown. It was the biggest deal I'd ever landed, and it was going to make me the kind of successful that people actually noticed, the kind of successful that mattered. I poured myself into it, meetings with architects, negotiations with contractors, schmoozing with city council members and other developers who might actually respect me now. That's where I met Ashley. She was the leasing coordinator for the project, early 30s, always an impeccable business casual, the kind of woman who made normal look effortless. We'd work late on the contract details, sitting in my office with spreadsheets and coffee, talking about square footage and rent rates. But we also talked about other things: what she wanted from her career, how she felt trapped in the corporate world, how she'd just gotten out of a bad relationship with a guy who didn't appreciate her ambitions. I told her things I didn't tell Sarah. I told her about feeling like the suburbs were suffocating me. I told her about wanting more success, more recognition, more excitement. She listened like what I said mattered. Nothing physical happened, not then, but something happened. Sarah could feel it. I saw it in the way she'd ask, "How was work?" And I'd already be mentally composing my response before she finished the question. I saw it in the nights I came home after she was asleep, and she'd pretend to be asleep when I got into bed. I saw it in how she stopped trying to talk to me about her day, because my silence had become a wall. One Saturday morning, about 9 months into the Westmont project, I told her I was going to the office to catch up on some paperwork. It was a lie. I went to a hotel in the city with Ashley. We didn't sleep together, but we came close. We kissed. That was enough to cross the line. That was enough to make me feel like I was finally becoming the person I was supposed to be. When I came home that evening, Sarah was in the kitchen making pasta for dinner. Emma was practicing violin upstairs. Tyler was building something with Lego on the living room floor. It looked exactly like the life I'd been trying to escape, and I felt nothing. That was the worst part, nonetheless, but the absence of it. The affair lasted 6 months before Sarah caught me. She found texts on my laptop that I'd been stupid enough to leave open. I remember her face when she confronted me, and how I couldn't meet her eyes. I also remember how quickly I got angry at her for invading my privacy, like she was the one who'd broken something. "I need space," I told her. "I need to figure out who I am." She asked if there was someone else. I lied and said no, which was almost worse than the truth. But we didn't split up. That's the thing nobody tells you about infidelity in a marriage with kids and a mortgage and 14 years of history. You can't just blow it up and walk away. You have to negotiate with the lawyers. You have to decide who keeps which car. You have to figure out the custody schedule and the child support, and whether your wife gets to keep the house or if you have to sell it to split the equity. It's not romantic or dramatic. It's a slow, grinding process that makes you hate each other in ways you didn't think possible. We got a marriage counselor, Dr. Patricia Morrison, who had a soft voice and a way of asking questions that made you feel like she already knew the answers. I'd sit there once a week, Sarah on the other side of the couch, and I'd say the things I thought I was supposed to say. "I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking clearly. I want to fix this." But I was still seeing Ashley. Not physically, not in the same way. But we were texting, meeting for coffee. She told me she was in love with me, and I told her I needed to figure things out first. It was cowardly, and it was cruel, and it was exactly what I deserved. The Westmont project finished in the spring. The ribbon cutting was a huge event. The mayor showed up, the local news covered it, and there was my face, shaking hands with the city council president, looking like a man who'd built something meaningful. Sarah didn't come. She said she wasn't feeling well, which meant she was refusing to be part of the performance. That's when Derek suggested the party. "You need to celebrate," he said. "You've earned it. The Westmont's done, you're sitting on serious money, and you're still living like you're 30. Come to the gala at the Westmont this Friday. It's going to be the event of the year. Everyone who matters will be there." I looked at him like he was insane. "Derek, I'm trying to save my marriage." "Exactly," he said. "And you'll do that better when you're not resentful about the life you could be living. Come celebrate yourself. Bring Sarah if she wants, but honestly, she'll probably be bored. These are industry people, investors, the kind of conversations that actually matter." Sarah didn't want to go. She said it sounded exhausting and she had to work anyway. I could have stayed home. I should have stayed home. Instead, I told her I had to be there for business reasons, which was technically true, but mostly a lie. And I put on the Armani suit that Ashley had once complimented and headed to the Westmont Hotel. The rooftop bar was packed with the kind of people who'd never existed in my life 5 years earlier. CEOs, venture capitalists, commercial real estate moguls who made my deals look like pocket change. Derek introduced me around like I was his protege, and I played the part. I drank expensive cocktails and laughed at jokes about the housing market, and talked about the next project I was planning in the waterfront district. Ashley was there. I hadn't known she'd be there, but Derek had invited her. She looked incredible. A black dress that probably cost more than Sarah's car payment. When our eyes met across the bar, I felt that familiar pull, that sense of being understood by someone who got what I wanted. We didn't talk much. We didn't have to. But at one point, I was standing with Derek and a couple of other developers, and someone made a joke about their wives not understanding business. Everyone laughed, and I laughed too. And then I said something I should never have said. "My wife thinks real estate development is just flipping houses," I said, loud enough for Ashley to hear. "She's a nurse, good with people, totally lost when it comes to understanding actual wealth creation." The guys laughed like I'd said something clever. Ashley turned away, but I saw her flinch. That's when Derek pulled out his phone. "You've got to see this," he said, and he was filming me now, and I was still talking, still explaining to these men why my wife didn't understand my world, why I'd outgrown her, why I deserved more than the life I'd been living. And then I saw Ashley across the bar, and I pointed at her and said, "That's a woman who gets it. That's someone who understands ambition." Derek was still filming. The video lasted 43 seconds. By midnight, it was on social media. By the next morning, it had been shared 3,000 times. Sarah watched it in the hospital bathroom during her lunch break. One of her coworkers had sent it to her with a crying laughing emoji, not realizing what she was watching. She called me at 2 p.m., and her voice was so quiet I almost didn't hear her. "I saw the video," she said, "and everything I'd built, everything I'd thought I wanted, started to crumble." I hung up the phone and sat in my office in complete silence. The video had 12,000 shares by noon. By 3 p.m., it was 50,000. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Emails from business partners, a call from my lawyer, a text from Derek saying, "This will blow over, man, just wait it out." It wouldn't blow over. I knew that immediately. Sarah didn't come home that night. She left a note on the kitchen counter saying she was staying at her sister's place in Riverside with Emma and Tyler. The note was in her handwriting, precise and calm, which somehow made it worse than anger would have been. "We need to talk," she wrote, "but not today." I called her 17 times over the next 2 days. She didn't answer. I texted. Nothing. I showed up at her sister's house on Saturday morning, and her sister Linda answered the door with an expression that made it clear I was the last person in the world she wanted to see. "Sarah doesn't want to talk to you right now," Linda said flatly. She was blocking the doorway, arms crossed. Linda had never liked me much. She'd always thought I was too ambitious, too self-absorbed. But this was different. This was contempt. "I need to see my kids," I said. "They're sleeping, and frankly, Marcus, I don't think you should be here. Sarah has a lawyer appointment Monday morning." The words hit me like a physical blow. A lawyer appointment. Not a marriage counselor. A lawyer. I drove back to the house in a daze. The Colonial in Oakmont that I'd been so proud of suddenly felt empty in a way that had nothing to do with anyone actually being gone. I walked through the rooms, the kitchen where Sarah made dinner, the living room where Tyler built with Legos, the hallway where Emma's violin case sat by the door, and I felt the ground collapsing beneath me. Derek called that afternoon. "Hey man, I saw Sarah posted something." My stomach dropped. Posted what? Check her Instagram. I opened it with shaking hands. Sarah had maybe 400 followers, mostly people from the hospital, family, a few old college friends. Her last post had been from 2 weeks ago, a photo of Emma at her school concert. But now there was a new post. A screenshot of the video, with a caption, "This is what my husband thinks of me. Not just what he thinks, what he wanted the world to see. I spent 14 years supporting his dreams while he built a life that had no room for me. I worked double shifts while he went to parties I wasn't important enough to attend. I raised our children while he decided he'd outgrown us. Thank you all for helping me see what I should have seen months ago. Sometimes you have to watch your husband humiliate you in front of thousands of people to understand that you deserve better." It had been up for 6 hours and had 800 comments, women sharing their own stories of husbands who'd become strangers, people tagging their friends saying, "This is what I'm talking about." A few comments from people in the industry, colleagues of mine, saying things like, "Wow, didn't know Marcus was like this," and "That's brutal." I called my lawyer, Richard Castellano, immediately. He'd handled my business deals for years, but I'd never needed him for personal matters. He was 63, had been divorced twice, and didn't believe in sugarcoating anything. "You're in a bad position," he said after I explained everything. "Your wife just posted a public accusation of emotional abuse and infidelity. She's established a narrative. The video establishes intent. You publicly humiliated her. If she files for divorce, which it sounds like she will, you're looking at a judge who's already heard the story from her perspective." "What do I do?" I asked. "You hire me to represent you in family court, and you prepare yourself for the fact that this is going to get expensive and painful. How much money are we talking about?" "The house is worth about $1.8 million, I said. "I have investments, retirement accounts, maybe $6 million liquid." He whistled. "Okay, she'll go after primary custody and spousal support. Depending on the judge and how well her lawyer presents this, you could be looking at significant monthly payments, plus child support. You need to document everything, your involvement with the kids, time you spend with them, any evidence that you're a present father. Because right now, the public narrative is that you're a selfish asshole who only cares about money." The word asshole shouldn't have hurt as much as it did, but it did. Because he was right. Monday morning, I got a call from Sarah's lawyer. Her name was Victoria Chen, and she was known in the area as a bulldog. She'd handled some high-profile divorces, and she didn't lose. She didn't even offer pleasantries when Richard put us on a 3-way call. "My client is filing for sole legal and primary physical custody of the children," she said. "She's requesting that Mr. Chen have supervised visitation only, pending a family evaluation. She's also requesting temporary spousal support of $5,000 per month, child support according to the state guidelines, and she intends to seek the marital home as part of the settlement." "That's not going to happen," Richard said calmly. "My client has been a present and involved father. There's no basis for supervised visitation." "There's a basis of emotional instability," Victoria said. "A man who publicly demeans his wife in front of hundreds of people, who's been having an affair with a coworker, who prioritizes his career and his social status over his family. That's not a stable father figure." "He never denied the affair," Richard said. "And one moment of poor judgment." "One moment?" Victoria's laugh was sharp. "Mr. Castellano, there's a video of your client pointing at another woman and saying his wife doesn't understand wealth creation. That's not a moment. That's a pattern." The call ended without resolution. Richard told me to expect the formal filing within 48 hours. It came on Wednesday morning. The divorce petition was 40 pages long. Sarah was asking for everything: the house, primary custody with me having supervised visits on weekends, $5,000 a month in spousal support, child support of $1,800 a month, and she wanted my lawyer to pay her legal fees because of the egregious nature of the infidelity and emotional abuse. I sat in my office and read through the document 3 times. There was a section labeled "Grounds for Divorce" that listed my infidelity, my emotional abandonment of the marital relationship, and my public humiliation of the petitioner. There was a section on the children that described how Emma had started having anxiety attacks at school and Tyler was having nightmares. The petition included statements from 2 of Sarah's coworkers attesting to her dedication as a mother and her distress over my behavior. The last section was what destroyed me. It was titled Impact on Children, and it detailed how Emma had been crying at school, how her grades had dropped, how she'd asked her mother if Daddy didn't love them anymore, how Tyler had started wetting the bed again, something he hadn't done since he was 5, how they'd both seen the video and understood on some level that their father had told the world their mother wasn't good enough. I put my head down on my desk and sobbed, actually sobbed. I hadn't cried since I was a kid, and now I couldn't stop. The sound of my own crying echoed in the empty office, and I thought about what I'd done. Not the affair. I'd compartmentalized that, told myself it was complicated. Not the emotional neglect. I'd rationalized that as a necessary sacrifice for success. But this public announcement that my wife was beneath me. This public demonstration to my children that their mother didn't matter. Richard called that afternoon. "We need to talk strategy," he said. We met at his office the next day. He had printouts of the video, screenshots of Sarah's Instagram post, copies of the divorce petition. He also had something else, a folder labeled Leverage. "Your wife's lawyer is going to push for maximum support," he said. "She's going to argue that you're a high-income earner who betrayed her trust and damaged the family. We have a few options. 1, we fight her on everything. The custody arrangement, the support amounts, the house. That's going to take 2 years and cost you probably $150,000 to $200,000 in legal fees. 2, we try to negotiate. We offer her a reasonable settlement, acknowledge some fault, and try to expedite things." "What's the reasonable settlement?" I asked. "She keeps the house. You pay her $2,000 a month in spousal support for 5 years and child support according to guidelines. You get the kids every other weekend and 1 weeknight. You don't contest the divorce." I did the math in my head. $2,000 a month times 12 months times 5 years. That was $120,000. Plus child support, plus the house, which was worth almost $2 million, plus my investment accounts would need to be divided. The total hit would be somewhere around $3 million. "That seems fair," I said. "It is fair," Richard replied. "It's also what you deserve." But he was holding that folder. I asked him what was in it. Richard hesitated. "There's another option. Your wife has been working double shifts, but she's also been spending time with someone. A paramedic who works at County Hospital. His name is James Mitchell. They've been texting extensively. There's nothing explicitly sexual, but the implication is clear." My chest tightened. "You're suggesting I use that?" "I'm not suggesting anything. I'm telling you what we have if you want to fight. We could argue that she's been emotionally invested in another relationship while still married to you. We could undermine her credibility. We could argue that she's unstable, that she's the one who's been unfaithful." I felt sick. The idea of dragging Sarah's name through the mud, of making her relationship with James public, of using my children as pawns in this game, it made me feel like the person I'd been at that party. Selfish, cruel, willing to humiliate anyone who got in the way of what I wanted. "No," I said. "I'm not doing that. Set up the negotiations. I'll take whatever she's asking for." Richard looked at me for a long moment. "That's not the smartest financial move." "I don't care. I did this. I humiliated her in front of thousands of people, and I've been lying to her for months. The least I can do is not make it worse." The negotiations took 3 weeks. Sarah's lawyer wanted $4,500 a month in spousal support. Richard negotiated it down to $2,500. She wanted the house, which I agreed to immediately. She wanted custody with supervised visitation for me, which Richard pushed back on, and we ended up with a compromise. I got the kids every other weekend and 1 weeknight, but only if I completed a parenting class and a family therapy evaluation. I agreed to everything, all of it. Signed the papers in Richard's office on a Thursday afternoon in June. Sarah signed them the same day. By August, the divorce was final. The day I moved out of the house, I sat in my car in the driveway for an hour before I actually left. This was the place where I'd brought Sarah when we first got married. The place where she'd told me she was pregnant with Emma. The place where I'd built a life and then systematically destroyed it. The colonial with the wraparound porch that I'd been so proud of now belonged to someone else. I'd rented a one-bedroom apartment in the city, not far from where I'd gone with Ashley that day. The irony wasn't lost on me. I drove there and stood in the empty space and thought about how this was what I'd wanted. The city, the freedom, the life unencumbered by the responsibilities of a family. And it was the loneliest place I'd ever been. My first weekend with Emma and Tyler came in September. I picked them up on Saturday morning. Emma wouldn't look at me. She was 13 now, tall enough that I had to look her in the eye, and she couldn't. Tyler, who was 9, held my hand but didn't talk much. We went to the movies because it was easier than conversation. Came back to my apartment, which I decorated with cheap furniture and photos of all three of us, trying to make it feel like a home. It didn't work. "Can we go back to Mom's?" Tyler asked around 7 p.m. "We have until tomorrow at 6, I said. "I know, but I miss her." I didn't argue. I drove them back to the house, and Sarah was waiting on the porch. She looked different, healthier somehow, lighter. She wasn't wearing the gold wedding band anymore. James was apparently waiting inside, though she didn't say that. "Thanks for bringing them back early," she said to me. "They wanted to come home," I said. She nodded, and then she looked at me for the first time since the party. Really looked at me. "Are you okay?" she asked. The question was so unexpected that I almost laughed. "No," I said, "I'm not okay. I don't think I'm going to be for a while." "Good," she said, and there was no cruelty in it, just truth. "You shouldn't be." She took the kids inside, and I drove back to my empty apartment and sat in the dark. The business consequences came slower than I expected. The Westmont project had been a success, and it brought me prestige in the industry. But prestige only goes so far when you've become a symbol of something people don't want to be associated with. 3 investors I was in talks with pulled out. A city council member who'd been supportive of my waterfront proposal suddenly became unavailable for meetings. Derek, to his credit, stuck around, though I noticed he didn't introduce me to people the way he used to. Then, in October, something unexpected happened. I got a call from a woman named Jennifer Walsh. She was a journalist for the regional business magazine, and she wanted to do a feature on me. I assumed it was going to be a takedown piece, the fall of Marcus Chen, brought down by his own arrogance. But when we met for coffee, she had a different angle. "I want to talk about what happened at the Westmont party," she said, "but not the scandal, the aftermath, what it actually cost you." I was cautious. "What do you mean?" "I mean, you had everything. Success, money, family, status, and in one 43-second video, you lost it. Not because of consequences, but because you actually saw yourself. That's interesting to me." I told her no. I told her I wasn't interested in revisiting it. But she left me her number and said, "If you change your mind, I think people need to hear this story. Not for you, for everyone else who's one bad decision away from the same thing." I didn't call her for 2 weeks. Then I was sitting in my apartment on a Friday night, alone, and I thought about Emma not being able to look at me. I thought about Tyler asking to go home. I thought about Sarah asking if I was okay, like she still cared, even though I'd given her no reason to. And I called Jennifer. We did the interview over 3 sessions. She asked me questions I didn't want to answer, about why I'd had the affair, about what I'd been looking for that I couldn't find at home, about the exact moment I realized I'd destroyed my family for nothing. I answered them honestly. It was humiliating and necessary. The article came out in November. It was long, maybe 5,000 words, and it told the story exactly as I'd lived it, not as a redemption arc, as a cautionary tale. The headline was, "The Cost of Ambition: One man's journey from the top to the bottom. People read it. I mean, really read it. The magazine's website crashed for 2 hours because of traffic. It was shared more than the original video had been. And the comments were different this time. Women talked about their own experiences with men who'd decided they'd outgrown them. Men talked about recognizing themselves in my story and being terrified. Therapists cited it in articles about infidelity and emotional abuse. Divorce lawyers used it as a teaching tool. And then Sarah read it. She called me on a Sunday afternoon. I almost didn't answer because I didn't recognize the number. It was from her work. I read the article she said without preamble. Okay, I said carefully. I wasn't going to call you. I was done with you. But I needed to tell you something. My heart was pounding. What? I needed to know if you meant it, if you actually understand what you did. I do, I said. I understand that I hurt you, that I lied to you, that I made you feel like you weren't enough, when the truth was that I was scared you were too good for me, and I needed to prove that I was better than someone who loved me unconditionally. There was a long silence on the line. Emma read the article too, Sarah said finally. She cried. Not because she was sad, but because she finally understood that you weren't blaming her, that you weren't choosing someone else over her, that you were just broken. I'm still broken, I said. I know, but maybe less broken than you were. She hung up after that. We didn't talk for another month. But in December, when I picked up Emma and Tyler for Christmas, Emma looked at me, actually looked at me, and she said, I'm not mad at you anymore, Dad. I'm just sad. I hugged her and let her cry, and I cried too. And it wasn't redemption. It wasn't fixing anything. But it was something. The Westmont project had made me $6 million. The divorce cost me $3 million. My legal fees were another $200,000. What was left was enough to live on, enough to build something new. But what I realized, sitting alone in that one-bedroom apartment, was that I'd already built everything that mattered, and I'd systematically dismantled it for the illusion of something better. I didn't get my family back. That was never going to happen. Sarah eventually married James, and they moved to Portland. And I saw my kids every other weekend and one Wednesday night. Emma went to UCLA on a scholarship. Tyler played soccer and had a dog and a life that included me in limited, carefully structured ways. But I learned something that you can't learn any other way. Success without integrity is just a very expensive way to prove that you're empty inside. And the people who love you unconditionally, the ones who work double shifts to support your dreams, who believe in you when no one else does, who make dinner and help with homework and hold your hand on hikes, those people are the actual prize. Not the Audi in the garage or the house with the wraparound porch or the approval of people at rooftop bars. I never saw Ashley again. She quit the Westmont project 3 weeks after the video went viral. Derek told me she'd moved back to California. Sometimes I wondered what she thought about when she remembered me, if she regretted anything, if she understood that she'd been the excuse for something that was already broken in me. What I know now is that the video didn't ruin my life. I did, and the only thing that saved me was finally admitting it.